Welcome to the Monday Morning Conversation with Michael Bresler, sponsored by CR3 American Exteriors and Broadheights. This is going to be a new format. We had a lot of really good feedback when we were doing the podcast, but they were just too long. So we wanted to hop on every Monday morning, talk about how businesses are evolving with AI, what AI is doing to businesses, things to think about, and we'll be using some articles that we found that will touch upon some of the ideas that Michael and I have been discussing behind closed doors, and we think that this can help all of the listeners who are either running a business or in school or even an athlete, and how things are changing. So, Michael, first off, good morning. How are you? Happy
Good
Monday.
morning. Good morning. It's good to see you. Happy Monday.
Yeah, likewise. So we found an article. I've been using the Harvard Business Review a lot. There's a lot of really good articles on there I just subscribed to recently. And I found one that I found really interesting. I use ChatGPT a lot. I use Claude a lot. I'm sure you do as well, Mike. And one thing I never really thought about was the token usage. So I pay a flat fee every month. I don't know what it is, $50, whatever it is. And I don't even think about it because it's not that expensive in terms of everything else I use in my company. But this article started touching upon an idea of token usage and how that is going to change without us even thinking about it. So right now, correct me if I'm wrong, you buy tokens, you buy $50. It is more than enough to get you by for a whole month, and then it resets. But eventually that model is going to change to more of sort of how we pay our electricity bill. It's going to be based off usage. It's going to be based off how much of the actual artificial intelligence that we're using, and then we get billed at the end of the month. And so right now, while we think AI will help us save money, instead of paying a salary of $60,000, how can we use this to cut salaries and run our business just using artificial intelligence? Maybe we should pull back on that a little bit. And so there was one quote that I saw. Today's AI adoption has been fueled by heavily subsidized pricing from enterprise software vendors, but that era is ending. Companies are shifting towards a usage-based charges. And so, first off, what does that even mean? Second, how is this going to change the way companies use AI? And third, are we seeing a shift in real time where maybe AI is not as cost efficient as we originally thought?
Well, there's so much there to unpack. Yeah, so we're seeing this firsthand. We're seeing organizations take on AI and then having a cost shock, right, on the back end of things, where things are costing a lot more than they thought they would. And you're right, a lot of it is because vendors are subsidizing, right? And that's generally how things work in the consumer world. Is things are always cheaper at first, right? You sign up for that streaming service and it's free, and then suddenly they charge you. I feel like everything that we consume in the world starts with free, and then they get you hooked on it and you need it, and then they just throw in these prices. Ultimately, we're going from this fixed cost model, which you said, like with ChatGPT, it could be free, it could be $8, it could be $20, $50, $100, and there are all these different levels, right? And there's predictability in that because it's like, oh, I have one person on my staff, I'm going to buy one license, it costs me $20, and I need 100 people, it's going to cost me 100 times 20. And that's how software works. Like, we're used to, whether it's a CRM or ERP or billing software, we're used to seat licenses, right? We're not used to models where, aside from transactions of dollars, right, we're not used to models of, well, if you send X amount of invoices, you're going to get charged each invoice you send out, right? That's not really kind of the model that we're used to. And so what I think is interesting is that ultimately how it's going to change how we adopt is that right now, even using the word adopts is probably wrong, because right now adoption is kind of how we measure. So we say like, oh, we have X amount of people using it, and we saved X amount of heads. But I think that adoption actually is the wrong measurement, right? It's not really how many people are using AI. It's really more like, what problems did we solve, right? What did it cost before? Like what you just said is, I just saved $60,000 on a person, and I replaced it with AI, right? So when someone can use AI and it costs you, $200 a month, then of course there's a gigantic savings. But if you don't, then I think a lot of organizations are probably spending a lot of money on AI and not getting the value. But I think this could be actually a good thing.
Yeah, yeah, and there's a few things to think about as well from this article. The article brings up a good point that AI doesn't have as much knowledge as it does have knowledge in a broad sense, because it doesn't have knowledge itself. It's just pulling from 100 million different sources. But take our company, for example, CR3, we do exterior remodeling. Let's say in Hanover, we're bidding against 3 other companies. Well, that ChatGPT per se does not have the knowledge in the area that the customer is letting me know, or our salesmen know what other companies are selling them. You might be able to create a relationship where you can get the customer to tell you what the other companies came out and offered themselves. AI can't do that. AI can't make a relationship, and customers aren't sitting having conversations with AI. The other thing that it's interesting, and it's a question, and I want to ask this to you is, and this is what companies should be talking about: how much does it cost when we actually use it at scale? Okay, so companies are shifting towards usage-based charges. How much does it actually cost when we use it at scale? So the larger your company gets, if you start integrating this and replacing employees, or thinking about replacing employees, or changing a department, right now you have 8 employees in your department, you're only spending $20. Okay, so $160 a month. Well, what happens at scale when you have 150 employees? Can you replace 150 employees and just rely on these artificial intelligence? I know people are really scared about losing their job, or the industry cutting all these jobs because they can replace it with AI. But what does that look like at scale? And I don't think it's as a secure, safe thing as a lot of people think.
Well, I don't think there is scale like that. The way I look at AI is a supplement to the humans. So there are going to be roles, of course, that are replaced by technology. That's what we saw with the internet. I mean, we've seen it with phones. It's inevitable. But I don't see, you're going to buy 100 licenses to AI. Because here's the thing: that $20 you're talking about, that's not agentic. That's not any of like the good stuff. That's someone talking to or interacting with a large language model, and inevitably it's on the human to have the judgment, right? But there's a lot of work that actually goes into getting an AI to work the way you would want it to work. And as you said, right, AI is really just trained on everything. And so, when it comes down to what AI doesn't have, which is what's important for humans, is, humans have the judgment, humans have empathy, AI does not, and so what I think this is also going to do for us is it's going to help force us to think less about how much AI we're using and more about like what we're getting out of it, right? Because you mentioned the economics of work. That's like really what this conversation is about. It's about like the future of work. What does it look like? How does AI work with that? So if you say, oh yeah, every single person could get a $20 AI and it's going to help them do 50% more work, like those economics really make a lot of sense. I think the problem, and this is the problem with how people use AI today, is that ultimately, because of this unlimited thing, which will end, right? This is what the article is saying. People are using it to the extent where they really shouldn't be using it, right? So there's a certain threshold of like how far you could take AI to help you, and then when the human has to actually step in to actually provide good judgment, right? And so when there's a point where AI is much more variable, companies are going to have to start really thinking about it. So think about like examples like well, one is, back in the day, cell phones were not unlimited, right? You paid per minute, and then you had like nights and weekends on Sprint for those of us who are a little older, and a lot of us would wait until after 9 o'clock to make phone calls, right? And so, and that's really simple. Like you talk for a minute, you get charged for a minute, right? Easy calculation. AI is not so simple. AI has a lot of algorithms in the background where like when you say you bought a token, it's like really hard to decipher how much that token even gave you, because it's not just time, it's processing, it's complexity. And those things make it, really, really difficult. And then also the other challenge is from a licensing perspective, the licensing is very vague, right? As far as like, what are you getting? Like, what are you getting with free ChatGPT? What do you get with $8 ChatGPT? What do you get with $20 ChatGPT? It tells you a lot of things, like, you have, unlimited performance, you pay $20. Now for $200, you have the really smart one. Like, what does that mean? And so those are questions that we're all trying to figure out ourselves, because again, when you relate it to how we buy things today, if I buy a streaming service, like if I buy Paramount Plus, right? Like I know if I buy this service, I have Paramount Plus, I get these shows, right? And I also know if I pay a little more, I get Showtime, right? And those are like really concrete things. But the other thing, which is like how I would equate it, is when you go from the free ChatGPT up to 200 ChatGPT, there's knowledge and expertise that's missing, right? Like the intellectual ability of AI is different. It's not like it's all the same and you're just paying for capacity. One actually works better than the other. And so going back to the streaming service, imagine if you had a free Paramount Plus and now you could watch a show, but it was like the abridged version of 25% of it, and you had to pay the full amount to see the whole show. But like you didn't know it wasn't the whole show, because like they basically remastered the whole episode of 1 hour to be 20 minutes, so it felt like it, right? So that's kind of how I see, at least how I'm trying to figure out how AI actually works.
Yeah.
Right? Is like you watch like a short on TikTok, which is the show. You could get a lot out of it. You could get a lot out of a short or a trailer, right? That's what I think free AI is becoming. Right. It's not just about the amount of time. Oh, you're not going to get locked out anymore. It really is about you're paying for like level of training, level of intellect.
So last quick point, and I think this point's really something we all need to think about, is how not to rely on AI. It's really easy to rely on ChatGPT throughout the day to answer your question. But what I found the other day that was, in a sense, eye-opening for me was I like to think a lot during the day, come up with new ideas, think about how the future's going to look, how we need to adapt our business model, et cetera, et cetera. And I had a thought process that I almost came to an epiphany of, wow, maybe this is what's going to happen. So a couple years ago, if I came to a similar epiphany, I'd have to sit and do a lot of research. The other day, I just started asking ChatGPT a question about it. I said, I'm thinking about this idea. I'm wondering if this is how our industry will look in a few years, maybe even a few months. Am I correct in this assumption, or are there other ways that I should be heading in my thought process? And I started having this conversation with ChatGPT, and ChatGPT said, no, there's actual data and statistics to back up your thought process. But also think of it this way. And I would think of it that way and start asking ChatGPT more questions. And I started having a conversation where I was actually thinking of pulling real statistics and data from it. So whereas it would take me 5 hours a couple of years ago to really start backing my thought process up, it took me 45 minutes. and then I could come up with a presentation with it and share it with my team. So now this data that I'm coming up with is able to be put together within a few hours, whereas before it could take a few days. But not just for me, but for my entire team, and how we can use that to our benefit. And so I think that is where we need to utilize stuff like ChatGPT or Gemini, not to rely on it, but to help back up our own thoughts and ideas to make it better. Right? I mean, Isaac Newton, when he had an idea, we all know who Isaac Newton is. When he had an idea, it would take years for him to actually figure it out and back it up. Now, when we have ideas, it could take seconds, minutes, maybe an hour. And that's really important because as businesses, as humans in general, we can expand where we are a lot quicker than we could have 5-10 years ago. And so that's how I think we need to rely on ChatGPT.
Yeah, 100%. That's a great way to kind of recap this conversation.
All right. Well, this is every Monday, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. But I want to put as much information out there for people, especially Mike, you're the expert in the industry. I get to learn a lot. So tune in. Please reach out to me, or definitely reach out to Mike. He'll be on LinkedIn, social media, wherever. But this is a good way for us to connect as business owners, salesmen, whoever you are. Just reach out, connect, and let's grow together. This is the point of it, is let's grow together. Let's network, ask questions, reach out to me, ask questions that I can ask Mike, and utilize this platform. But otherwise, Mike, hope you have a great week.
Thank you. Thank you all.